think about what Dan Bilzerian said? He called you a fat Jew.
Well, look, thanks for having me. I've had people.
And he is fat, and he is Jewish. I mean, like, come on. It is kind of funny. But all right, though.
Call me names my entire life. It doesn't bother me. I think it's part of the territory, unfortunately, of being Jewish in America. But perhaps, Harvey, to try to explain where you were coming from, when you refer to me or someone that way, it's not being stated to make a statement of fact. It's being stated as a slur. He's making that statement, not that I'm a Jew because it's factual. He's making that statement because...
Randy, are you fat? Yes. Are you a Jew? Are you Jewish? Yes. So you're a fat Jew. Just like if I was fat and I'm black, then somebody called me a fat black guy, I can't get that offended. Now, if you've called you a fat K word, okay, I'll be with you on that. Like if somebody called me a fat N word with the hard R, I would be offended. Or maybe not that much. But hey, I have a bit of dark humor. But I get it, though. I get it. So calling you a fat Jew is like calling me a fat black or a skinny black guy. It's like, I don't really care. It's not that bad until you make it the N word, or in your case, the K word.
He views that as some sort of negative thing. Now, I'd never heard of this guy before until a couple of days ago, but having watched your interview, it's clear that he simply doesn't like Jews. In America, you're allowed to do that. I don't think it's going to work out to become a congressman having that perspective.
So
I mean, shoot, it worked out for you. You out here hating Muslims to the core, my friend. You was out here like asking people on Twitter to send you dead Palestinian children, dead Palestinian babies, and then you said that's a good pick. I mean, bro, you was out there cheering for the starvation of Palestinians. So it worked for you. You're allowed to be out there hating Muslim, Arabs, brown people. Don't matter. It don't matter. So if it worked for you, I mean, maybe it could work for Dan Bilzerian.
I hear you that. And in fact, we said that yesterday in talking about the phrase that Dan used, that you can take a word, in fact, you could say blacks in a certain way and it's okay. Well, you can say it another way and it is very clear that you're saying it as an epithet, right? So I get you on that. What's odd, Congressman, is that during our conversation with Dan Bilzerian, he brought up the fact that he called you an Islamophobe and said that you tweet about things all the time and you tweet things that are racist. And he asked us, is that okay? I said, no, it's not okay.
I agreed.
And
I agreed with you that
yes,
it's not
and you
okay.
agreed that it's not okay. And I went and looked up some of the things that you've been quoted as saying, and I got to say, Dan Bilzerian's right. I mean, unless you want to say these were incorrect, but we need more Islamophobia, not less. Fear of Islam is rational.
Mass expulsion. Muslim leaders are terrorists.
Hey, yo.
Starve away. Advocating.
Nah, I didn't even know he said all that. Damn, it's worse than I thought. He said mass expulsion. I mean, bro, what's more un-American than that? You ever heard of religious freedom? You ever heard of freedom of speech? Probably not, because Florida got these anti-Semitism law now. So I guess maybe he got it all fucked up here in America, bro. Maybe you need to go be part of the Knesset in Israel and not here, or a congressman in America. It sounds like you'd better serve Israel.
Nuclear action.
Actually, I'd imagine that when President Trump said that there was going to be an entire civilization wiped out, based on this, I would say you were cheering that.
Well, look, I think you've taken a lot of different things and you've smushed them together. I don't know that you've provided the context for any of them. What I would say is this. Unlike Dan Bilzerian, I guess, who's talking about Jews as though they're all negative, I don't believe that all Muslims are bad. I think many are good. I think the difference is that also doesn't mean that I think that no Muslims are bad. And if you look at what's happened since the...
Yeah, but let's be real, bro. I mean, we all think like that. We all think that, look, when we talk about a group, we're really talking about the radicals, not the entire group. But you, bro, you've called for mass expulsion of all Muslims. You say it's what was it? It's an evil ideology that spreads terrorism and death and all this good stuff. I mean, no, bro, you're talking about their entire belief system. And you did not differentiate between a group or anything. You didn't say it was the Shias, the Sunnis, the Wahhabis. You didn't say any of that. You said all Muslims. So I'm sorry, but it's either you're going to have to clarify or stand on it.
Conflict with Iran began, 5 American Muslims in 4 states launched 4 separate terrorist attacks because they believed they were acting in accordance with their faith. When it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, you can sort of excuse it. But when it's been so many that we've seen over the
Zionists attack Muslim countries and try to take their land because they believe they're in accordance with their faith. You know what that makes you? A terrorist. Yes, if you're a Muslim and you're over here killing people on your faith, that's a terrorist. If you're out here at a Zionist and you think it's okay to take land and kill people on your faith, that's terrorism. Like, bro, there ain't no difference. But apparently we accept one form of terrorism over the other. Like, oh, my bad. We accept Zionist terrorism over Islamist extremist terrorism.
The past 25 years, some fear of this philosophy is a reasonable thing to have. And my issue is there are those who say because not every American Muslim is a terrorist, we're not allowed to say that any are a terrorist.
Well, no, but you're opening the door.
No, we're not. We're just saying that, that's what we're telling you guys, is that not all Muslims are terrorists. That you guys truly believe that all Muslims want to take over the United States. We're all going to be in burqas one day and all this crazy stuff. I'm sorry, but that's what we're trying to tell you guys. You're the one trying to tell us that all Muslims are evil, and then you want to backtrack it when the public gets on your ass, and you still haven't clarified the group you're talking about.
To someone like Dan Bilzerian saying that he's had a bad experience with 5 Jews, and so therefore all the Jews are bad.
Right.
They're all fat Jews.
But I would clarify. I'm not saying all Muslims are bad.
And I mean, shout out to my man Chad, because that was a bit too real. It's like the crazy part is we pay for both of them. Yeah, we pay for both Islamist extremist terrorism and Zionist terrorism. Both comes out of the American taxpayer pocket. Both.
And by the way, I think is saying all Jews are bad. By the way, every group has bad apples in it. That doesn't mean that the entire group is bad.
No,
and
that's true. But I want to point to something.
Every group is bad. There's no group that's perfect.
Okay, but I want to point to something because this, to me, may be one of the most troublesome.
Said earlier this year.
Asked dogs or Muslims.
Oh God, make sure you double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation by double tapping that screen. Appreciate the support, guys.
You were asked about that, and you said if they force us to choose, the choice between dogs and Muslims is not a difficult one. Mm-hmm. How is that not painting an entire group? Because that's not the same as 4 or 5 people or a lot of people. That's saying Muslims are worse than dogs.
That's not what it says. And again, I think you need to provide the context. I'll provide the context.
Okay.
One of Mayor Mondami's key advisors, Muslim advisors in New York, said dogs are not clean. They should be banned as indoor pets because Muslims coming to New York believe they violate their religion. Finally, Islam is coming to New York City. My point was a very clear one. If you're going to make me choose between my dog and people who want to come to this country and say for them to live here, we must ban dogs, the choice is an easy one. And I would put this back on you. I believe that's a view that 90% of Americans agree. Do you believe if immigrants want to come to this country and they don't want dogs, would you all give up your own dogs in order to make them happy?
You didn't say immigrants, you said Muslims. There are
look, I love dogs. But to sit there and say that you'd put dogs over human beings, which Muslims are, is crazy. And you're basically saying that dogs are above human beings, which would be Muslims. So it's like saying I'd put my dog over Christians. I mean, you guys would lose y'all shit if I said that, right? And rightfully so, you should. So anybody saying they put a dog over Muslims is wild. And trust me, I love my dog. I do. But if you told me, hey, yo, Set, man, you were going to put your dog over this human life of a Muslim, I'd be like, no, sorry, I'm not. That's kind of fucked up. There's kind of a hierarchy here. But I mean, hey, that's on you. It's on you. But all I'm saying is that if anybody ever came out and said they accept their dog over Christianity, don't cry, because you're the same one cheerleading when he said he'd accept dogs over Muslims. So as long as somebody can say the same thing and you sit there with a straight face and don't cry about it, then, I mean, at least you're being consistent.
Plenty of United States citizens who are Muslims.
I understand, and I believe the person who made the statement saying dogs are unclean. So immigrants or not, do you believe if a group of American Muslims says in order to live in this country, you must give up your dog because they believe it is unholy? I said, no, they can leave. Look, I'm Jewish, but I don't expect the grocery store to not sell pork. When my kids take matzah to school for Passover, we don't.
And here's the thing: is like you're crying about something that's never going to happen. Is like, did Mondani do it? Did he push out the law? No. But let's talk about this anti-Semitism law that you guys got in Florida. How there's consequences for anybody who criticizes Israel. I mean, here's the thing: you're allowing exactly what you're criticizing Mondani for. Like, you're literally allowing anti-Semitism laws, speech laws against American citizens. And what if Mondani was to actually carry that out? Yeah, that'd be a violation of, well, our constitutional rights, just like what you're doing and actually enacting upon in Florida. Isn't that crazy? Isn't the projection wild? Because Mondani didn't ban indoor pets, but you sure did ban criticism of Israel, or you signed on to it at least.
Expect the school cafeteria to not serve bread to the students that go there. America is a Christian nation. I'm Jewish. I love being here. I love living here. But that's the way it is. And my point is there are groups of people who are coming to this country that demand that we submit to their faith in order for them to practice it. And I stand by what I said. If I have to choose between my dog and a group of people who say I can't have it, it is not a difficult choice. And I would point out the overwhelming majority of Americans agree with me.
Where's the move?
Yeah, that's why we really don't honestly see why you're tripping so hard. When you're trying to say you'd put your dog over a group of people, it's like, look, bro, first off, this is America. Nobody has that type of influence, especially when there's only 5 million of them. It's like you guys are crying over what one person out of 5 million people say, and not all Muslims believe that. Now, I mean, most Muslims don't have dogs in their house, I'll tell you that. But then again, most Muslims, they don't really care that much that you have a dog in your house. So I'm sorry, but crying about what one Muslim girl say, and then you're gonna say, well, you could have just said F her, I choose my dog over her. We sit there and be like, yeah, all right, cool. But say you choose your dog over all Muslims is wild.
The movement to ban dogs. I haven't heard Mondani say that.
Me neither.
Said, and you're pointing to one person.
And yep, thank you. And they're pointing to one person in Mondani's like group. And Mondani hasn't put out a law like that. He didn't even try to. Actually, Mondani took away some anti-Semitism laws that was being marked in. So, I mean, sounds like Mondani stands up more for the Constitution than you do, Randy Fine. Crazy enough. He's like, what is the Muslims' takes on cats? Just curious and trying to learn. You know what? Actually, they're okay with cats. Actually, I've had some experience with some Muslims, and they are actually cool with the cats, ironically. But then again, cats do clean themselves, so it's probably why.
In New York,
great question.
But then again, think about the rich ones. We having the tigers and the lions, apparently. But they be having those as pets, so it makes sense that they like cats. And like I said, considering that cats clean themselves.
That's a very fair question.
Dog guy.
This is this one person who, by the way, is a major leader in New York. But there are other leaders in New York, and I could regale you for an hour with quotes about imams in mosques who've said the most unbelievable things. But in places that are a few years ahead of us, like the United Kingdom, they are making moves to ban dogs as a result of this. This is not outside the mainstream. But look, to get back to Bilzerian. I don't know how long we have. I would simply say this. You ask about, him as an opponent.
Hold on, I got to shout you out for that, Linda. Appreciate the support. Well, Luna, sorry. Appreciate the support, Luna. Been here for about 7 months. Shout out. Appreciate you, sis.
A guy who's a foreigner, he's a dual citizen, who has said Donald Trump is a pedophile rapist and should be impeached. That is not a serious candidate in a Republican primary where Donald Trump got over 90%. So he's not a serious candidate. We're not going to spend a lot of time worrying about him because he's running in a Republican primary. And frankly, Republicans love Donald Trump.
Yeah, but Republicans, but they don't like you, bro. They don't like you. A lot of them don't like what you stand for. And a lot of them has actually called for you to be taken out. Like, a lot of people have called what was his name, Mike Johnson, to have you removed because of how wild you are in your crazy ass statements. So yeah, trust me, I don't think the American people are with you. They might be. And let's wait to see what Dan is saying here, because Dan has a way better campaign than you are. He's talking about America first, and you've been all about Israel throughout your entire history as a senator. Well, no, congressman, not a senator. He's a congressman.
Problem with a dual citizen running for office.
It was odd that the first thing you said was that
dual citizen.
An immigrant.
That's a great question. Most Americans don't believe dual citizens should be able to serve in Congress. If you're a citizen of another nation where you've pledged an oath to that other country, how can you serve in Congress and live up to your obligation to serve the United States?
Well, guys, make sure you're double tapping that screen and liking the video, guys. Like I said, let's see if we can go ahead and get to 500 likes by double tapping that screen, because we're almost at 400. And if you want to, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. Just hit that icon above, take you to the channel, subscribe, and come on back. All right, guys, let's get right back to it. And don't forget, double tap the screen or smash that like button.
By the way, he served in the U.S. military, so he took an oath to serve in the U.S. military, right?
My understanding is he's taken an oath to protect and defend another country. I just don't believe.
By the way, should he have been in the military?
Been in what?
Should he have been in the U.S. military? In the military, because he was. He served for 4 years.
I mean, I don't have a problem with people who serve in the military.
Well, if you don't have a problem with somebody risking their life for the sake of the country, why would you have a problem with a loyalty oath if they're fighting for their lives for the country?
I think you're conflating a couple of things.
Not.
My point is very simple.
I'm not conflating anything.
If you are a citizen of a...
Caught you in your hypocrisy. It's like, so you're saying if you're a citizen of another country and you come here, you shouldn't run for, office. You know what? I somewhat agree with him on that, but are you going to be consistent across the board with that, though? Because that means they shouldn't have to fight in our, army either. If they can't serve our country in that way, then I guess they can't be in our army either, and they should just be able to loot off the American citizens without having no skin in the game. I mean, this is why we let foreigners fight in our army, because it shows that loyalty.
Foreign nation. And by the way, I filed this bill 6 months ago, long before I'd ever heard of this guy. I don't believe that people who are citizens of another country should serve in Congress.
But I just asked you, he was willing to risk his life and take an oath to support and defend our country. If he's willing to do that, you don't think that's enough? Because a lot of people who run, were you in the military? I'm just curious.
I was not, but I've also never taken, let me finish. I've never taken an oath to support and defend another country and then asked to serve in Congress as a result. Look, I serve with lots of veterans. I'm in awe of the service that they give their country. This has nothing to do with military service, but I simply believe that people who've sworn an oath to put the interests of another country above America should not be in Congress. It's not about him. This is a bill that I filed 6 months ago.
All right, then tell Ted Cruz that he shouldn't be a senator, because he sat there and said to the world that, yeah, I mainly became a senator to serve Israel. So by your definition, you should be calling for the removal of Ted Cruz.
By the way, it's something that's been overwhelmingly positive with the people that I serve. Americans generally do not believe people that are citizens of other countries should serve in the American government.
But they should serve in the military.
Wild.
Okay.
I mean, by the way, I know we're almost out of time, Congressman. I know you said you don't view him as a serious candidate, but if there is a groundswell of support for him, would you be willing, down the road, would there be a debate? Would you debate Dan Bilzerian?
We're not going to do any campaign events until after qualifying, but I would be loath to be in any event with someone who's willing to use the N-word as freely as he was willing to do it with you. That's simply not language.
I'm gonna be real with you. He's gonna win over the younger crowd because that was kind of base. He's like, what? N-word? He's like, what, nigga? I was like, damn, okay, let's go. He's like, what? Can we be adults and talk about a word? I thought we was talking about bad words here. And he's like, I don't use it, but if we're gonna talk about it, I'm gonna drop it. I was like, oh, okay, all right, respect. He's like, if you honestly listen to Dan Bilzerian, he is a no nonsense type of guy. I mean, he just don't care.
I view that anyone who can use that word so easily probably uses it in their everyday language, and that's not a word that I believe has any place in the Republican Party, and I'm not interested in platforming it.
I would agree with you on that word. I would disagree with you on a lot of things that you've said about other groups. So I guess we're at a stalemate.
Thank you for joining us, though. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that probably shocked the hell out of him. He was like, God damn it, that man, Dan Bilzerian's right.
Thank you guys for having me.